So I wanted to talk about Dukkha today, which hopefully people are familiar with that word. I won't go too much into the explanation, but it basically means the sort of unsatisfactoriness of life, or it can mean pain and suffering, the quite sort of more extreme ends. Kind of covers a wide spectrum of kind of feeling, just when life doesn't go the way you want it to go, that kind of feeling, and also the deeper sufferings. Okay, let's maybe put the microphone up a bit, hang on. Is that any better? Is it picking it up more? No. Thanks for your honesty. Not really. Is that any better? Maybe. Shall I?
If you try moving a bit further up.
A bit further. Is that any better? I don't know why it's not picking it up.
No. Try. So can you just take it off for me?
Yeah.
If we try swapping it around maybe. Thank you. That's going to help actually.
This is microphone Dukkha. Okay, is that better? Can you hear me now?
Is that working?
Yeah? That's true, you could come closer. I think it's doing it. I think it's because I'm a bit nervous as well, so my voice goes a bit quiet, so I'll try and project. It's fine now? Okay, cool. You can do it, come on. So basically the talk will cover Dukkha, and why I didn't really want to hear the teachings about Dukkha, what the Buddha says we can do with Dukkha, and then some of the ways that I now try and practice when I remember the teachings. And that's why I find it helpful to have an image, because actually it's one thing knowing the teachings, but it's another as you know, trying to bring it in to actual daily life. And I guess a lot of the images in Buddhism are from different countries, so I find it quite helpful to have some that are really English ones that you can just see when you walk around. I didn't want to hear about Dukkha, and 7 years ago I probably wouldn't have come to this talk. I would have probably just groaned and been like, no, I'm just going to carry on dancing and spinning around. And I have found the secret to think I'm a sort of retired hedonist, basically. So in my 20s, I just did everything I could to kind of create fun and enjoyment. I'd had an upbringing of quite kind of left-wing Marxism and activism, and it was all about kind of fighting against the things that cause suffering. And I don't know, I think I just became a bit disillusioned with it all. So I was going to find the other way, and I was going to find a way to have a good time all the time. So when I found Buddhism, I just thought I'd skip this bit, I thought it'd be fine. Luckily, I had good teachers around me, such as Dayajoti, who's really hot on this teaching. So I think eventually stuff began to sink in. But I still had that kind of good girl approach of if I practice hard enough, if I do enough meditation, enough yoga, I think even service I managed to warp. Yes, I managed to warp everything into chasing it. So if I give enough service, if I do enough retreats, if I do a month-long retreat, surely that will be my ticket to not experiencing anything going wrong, everything will go my way. So there was that. And then also I think I still had a bit of the old method of, which is still there sometimes, but it's getting less. So, over the years I've stopped drinking, stopped smoking. That's 5, thank you. And I've recently found recovery from food patterns as well that I use to distract myself from feeling things. Anyway, so basically, that's kind of what inspired the talk. Not wanting to turn towards, basically. And there's a nice talk from Bhante Sangharakshita, who's the founder of this Buddhist movement. So he's one of the reasons we're all here. And he says, "It is by trying too hard to escape from unhappiness that we fail to do so. Freedom from suffering..." Shush, I'm trying to give my talk. Freedom from suffering comes from not seeking that. So I think the more and more that I heard these teachings, I was like, actually, okay, I'm actually making it worse. And I guess there came a point where I couldn't turn away from it anymore. And I knew that the old ways weren't working. So what does the Buddha say? So again, I used to probably block my ears at this point, but so basically that the way we're living life is unfulfilling. And because of that, we suffer. And the suffering comes from craving. So constantly wanting to push away the things that we don't want and to pull towards us the things that we do want. And that living in a different way to this would actually end suffering, and that there's a way to do it. And there's different lists. You can kind of pick whichever one works for you. There's there's the Noble Eightfold Path. There's also the 5 systems. I can't remember all the names, but there's a system of practice within Triratna. There's Sila, Samadhi, Prajna, which is meditation, ethics, and wisdom. So there's Buddhism is really hot on lists. So whichever one kind of speaks to you, there's a way to practice. But it kind of works for different faiths as well, basically. However you want to do it, there's a way to practice that will end our suffering. I'm also in so I also do 12-step, and sometimes I feel like Buddhism and 12-step are like 2 separate vines, maybe going around the same tree. But this morning, in the meeting in the 12-step dome, the teaching was exactly this. So if there's only 12-steppers in the room, it's the same teaching of so the paragraph this morning was about trying to wrest satisfaction from things, just that thing of constantly not quite being with what's happening and sort of wishing that something else was happening. People, places, things. And that comes, basically it's our view of reality. Yes, it's our view of reality that's kind of causing this to happen. Another quote that I find helpful from Bhante: "It's precisely our guarding of the self and our habitual grasping after things to reinforce this fixed sense of who we are. That is the root cause of all our difficulty and suffering in life." So that's kind of one of the... I'm going to use the pine cone in quite a flexible way. So one of the ways that it's helpful is when I think of fixed self and when I think of closing to reality, how it actually is, it helps me to think of the closed pine cone, because it's just kind of I don't know, I'm not really letting life in. I'm not letting... actually, this is it. When I try and close to stuff, if I'm not liking something and I'm closing, I'm actually closing to everything. I'm closing to love, I'm closing to friendship, closing to joy. This happened on a retreat I was on in March, and it wasn't how it was the year before, and I wanted it to continue being how it was last time. And I was cold and tired and had kind of pushed myself beyond what I was capable of. But more than that, I heaped on all the other kinds of dukkha, because I just felt like this little closed pine cone. So that's kind of, it's kind of since, it wasn't March, was it? It was April. But since April, I've been thinking about this image more. And so it's not traditionally used in Buddhism, but actually the pine cone does feature in Greek mythology and Roman mythology. It represents abundance and also regeneration and possibility and prosperity. And the Celts would put it under their pillow apparently as a good luck for fertility. So don't know if anyone wants to try that, but maybe not here. So the Buddha is saying, so basically one of the first ways to kind of put these that I've found helpful to put these teachings into practice is, rather than trying to block out the dukkha or pretend it's not happening, it's to really turn towards it, which is not what I ever want to do. Like it's the last thing I want to do. But so through meditating, through doing yoga, I guess that's the first way I found. Thank you. Is that 10 minutes? Oh, great. That's perfect time. So this is So I just didn't have the capacity to turn towards when I first found Buddhism, and I was still just trying to push everything away. But through yoga and through meditation, I've been able to really kind of, I guess just practice in the body and notice like the tightening, noticing the closing, and then slowly, gradually, just being able to be with it, perhaps with the discomfort in yoga if something's coming up, or the discomfort in meditation, and then kind of bringing that out into real life as well. So like a softening and an opening and a relaxing in those practices, and then when it actually happens in life, being able to sort of be with it in a more loving, kind awareness. Also by responding with compassion and kindness. I think that was a big turning point for me. I think another sort of second arrow I'd pile on was thinking that if I was practicing well, then this wouldn't be happening. So especially with my like eating disorder, I kind of got to this point of thinking, I'm just really failing, like the Dharma's not working for me. Whereas actually the only thing that changed it was by turning towards it more. Oh, okay. Turning towards it more, but also turning towards it and bringing in kindness and compassion, that this is happening and it's okay, it's like not my fault. So that loving, kind awareness, and then with that there's the compassion that actually other people are experiencing this as well, and that I think that's, especially at the festival, it's really easy, isn't it, to think that you're the only person who's maybe, I don't know, wandering around and can't find their friends, or you've left your scarf somewhere, or everyone else is having the best time ever. But actually it's not true. And I think compassion helped, softening and bringing compassion helped my heart to open to others. So here we go, bring the pine cone back. So in those moments of feeling dukkha and feeling like things aren't going my way, it's really helpful to remember that actually that's the case for a lot of other people. And it's really, my food recovery, one of the nice things about it is picking up the phone to call someone else, and I think that's a real heart-opening, open pine cone moment. I also wanted to mention the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, because sometimes it can feel a little bit too much to bear, and I think that's a time when we can call upon them. And there's an immediacy about that, and I think that's something else in the spiritual life. Sometimes everything can feel like quite well, for me anyway, because I'm the retired hedonist, don't want to don't want it to be too much effort and to take too many lifetimes. But actually, the nature of reality and love is that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are there like immediately when you call for them. So I wanted to read this verse from Vasantra that he writes about Tara. Love travels faster than sound, swifter than light. It traverses the galaxy. In a moment, O Queen of great compassion, wherever your love is needed, it is instantly there. So in those moments, calling for help has also really helped me. And I think there's something about this, of doing this over and over again, is building up of faith. So I think that was another thing I wanted to mention, is sometimes it takes a bit longer than you want it to. And sort of having faith that even in the moments where you feel a bit like you're in a dark place, or it's, like me on this retreat, I didn't want to be feeling like that. I thought, I'm training for ordination, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I want to be all shiny and bright, and I want to be lovable and loved. Whereas actually, even when the pine cone is closed, it's still drawing up nutrients from the ground. A bit like what, Kavi, I don't know where you've gone, there you are. I loved what you were saying about the river, and the underground currents, because I think I have a tendency to think that my practice has to be all shiny and vibrant, and so do I. But actually, the closed pine cone is still drawing up nourishment. And it's also still protecting the seeds of potential. And that's another thing I love about the pine cone, is sometimes apparently they can hold on to the seeds for 10 years until the conditions are right. So I love that. So it's like, again, like Habimani was saying, all is not lost. Keep practicing, keep having faith. That the seeds are there and they're just waiting for the right moment. How am I doing for time, Devon? 5, is that, so I've done, that's 15. Okay, cool, so I can, yeah. So opening, softening, bringing in compassion, turning towards, being with the seed of each moment, having faith in our practice. And then, this one's kind of hard to bring in when you're in the dukkha itself, but when you're when I'm in meditation, when I've accessed those states of openness and spaciousness and kindness, then I can drop in that wisdom teaching of actually, and I never wanted to hear this, but actually there's dukkha in each moment. And actually there's dukkha and sukha in each moment. There's suffering and sweetness in every single moment. And when I can drop that in, when I'm in the right place to drop that in, oh gosh, there's such a relief and such a freedom and such a spaciousness. And it might not last for that long, but it's like if I can find that in meditation, it's kind of beyond normal. Yeah, so it's kind of maybe not always there in everyday life, but maybe if we practice it in meditation, we can then, if we're in some moment, we can, oh yeah, I don't need to do all this searching and trying to arrange everything to be exactly how I need it to be, because in each moment there's both anyway. So why don't I just be with what's there? So yeah, so there's a possibility there to being alive to each moment of life. And yeah, especially here at this festival, there's so much going on. That brings me a lot of peace, actually. Yeah, it's just peace. And then from that practicing of these moments, we can, even I, who didn't want to learn about dukkha, even I can begin to see that actually dukkha is also a seed. Dukkha is an opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity because it happens all the time, right? It happens all the time. So we've got all these opportunities every single day to practice with things not going quite the right way, or something bad happening, or a friend suffering, or losing a friend, losing someone in our family. And in those moments, we can remember the teaching. And maybe there's a little bit of peace that can come from that, and a little bit of connection with all of humanity, knowing that this is what it's like to be human, and it's not just us. So there's an opening in that. There's an opening to being human. So I don't know if, some people might be familiar. There's an image in Buddhism that describes this, of moving from dukkha to faith. And then from faith you move to these other amazing states of bliss and joy, which obviously I'm really interested in. And it's the only reason I'm doing this. But no, there's a moving beyond, and then there's other levels that even go beyond that. But helpfully, the pine cone, it also captures this for us. So the pine cone there's many things in nature that have this spiral, and the pine cone is one of them. So it can also be a reminder that there's another way we can get out of that cycle of just doing the same things over and over again, and we can have a different response to our experience and take a step onto that spiral path of faith and of joy. And I just wanted to finish with so on Sunday when we were about to drive down, I'd just been writing this talk. And because I'd been so drenched in this teaching, I got out to my van and I had a flat tyre, which that's what dukkha means. It means ill-fitting wheel. And when we took it to the garage, that's what the guy said. Oh, it's just we hadn't put the wheel on right to the thing, and they put this black glue on it. And but because of the teaching and because of going with a good friend, and you rang your dad, and it was a lovely chance for you to chat to your dad and connect. And then we connected with these guys in the garage. And I don't know, it was just a real moment of oh yeah, this is life, this is what happens. You get a flat tyre, but you can still go on your journey, and you can, yeah, so yeah, that's it. Dukkha and the pine cone. Thank you.